Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I'm Taylor, and here we are in gorgeous Custer State Park. I know, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a national park tour, but it's gorgeous nonetheless. As you can see, I will show off the wonderful views as I talk about the hooks to the games we're covering today. We're covering Hund and Onda. And Hund is actually a re-implementation of a game we've covered before, which was Ebbs by the amazing Klaus Geis, who also did Dube. But the hook to that one is, as you play a certain number in a suit, it dictates what that suit means. So whether that suit is positive points or trump or whatever that means. And then Onda by Arthur, I'm blanking on the name, Arthur Lacerda. The hook to Onda is its climbing shedding, but the melds can all be bombs depending on when in the hand or the round or the game. The kind of balance there is timing the bombs, because they change as you play different tricks or kind of hands of the game. Let's go to the table and I'll teach you how to play those two. And also, I hope not to fall because it is a little bit of a drop. So if the last video is the last video you ever see of me, just let all the trick takers that I own go to charity. Okay, see ya, hopefully, at the table. Bye! The deck in Onda is 1 through 15, 2 copies each in 2 suits. So for example, there's 4 total 1s in the deck, and 2 of them are blue, and 2 of them are green. Here we have a game of Onda set up for 4 players, so no matter the player count, you're going to deal 15 cards to each player. At 5 player, actually, you're going to deal 12 cards. Each player is also going to get this token here, which is going to denote whether they have passed or not, because the game is hard pass. So when they pass, they're going to flip that. Also, in the center here, this is gonna be the bomb flow, because there are bombs in the game, and it's gonna start on a suited 2 run. Also, 15 is high, this will swap in the game, and also this token here, which denotes if it has been swapped in this current trick, is gonna be here, flipped face up. So at the very start of the game, players are going to be looking through their hand of cards, and they're going to choose 2 of them to go face down in front of them. And it could be any 2 cards they want, so maybe this player here decides just to pick this 8 and this 14. You're going to put it in front of you, so all players are going to do that simultaneously. Once everyone's done that, we're going to get into the climbing shedding. So in this game, what you can play are actually all in front of the players here in a funny way. So you have pairs, triples, 4 of a kind. You can also play singles, and then you could do suited runs of 2, 3, or 4. So in this game, you can lead any of them. Let's just do a simple example. They're playing the 2. So currently, this player up here can play anything higher than a 2, so maybe they just play a 3. And simple ladder climbing shedding, this player plays a 7, and then this player can't play the 4, but they decide to play the 12. Flow like this can keep going, so if you haven't passed, you can keep jumping back in. So this player over here, maybe they play the 15. And as you can see, 15 is the highest number. So we are at a predicament here. This player right here, they can just pass if they're not feeling it, so maybe they just do that. So they can't come back in. If this player over here wanted to, however, they have 2 cards in front of them, and they are multi-use. They can either be used as wilds, which I'll show later, or they can be pulled back into a player's hand and allow them to flip from high to now low. So maybe this player does this. They pull this card back into their hand, and they flip from a 15 is the strongest to now a 1 is the strongest. They're going to flip this, and so this now can't be done again. And now this player can play on the 15, and they can play any card. Well, they can't play 15, but maybe they play a 13, because now we're going down. So then it comes to this player, and this player's like, this is great, I'm going to play a 5. Maybe this player over here plays a 3. Coming to this player, they can't come back in because they already passed. So coming to this player over here, they could play their 1, or maybe they're saving it for some reason. They could play their wild as a 1. So maybe they play their wild as a 1. Coming to this player over here, since 1 is now the lowest, they also can't flip it. They're like, what can I do? Well, talking about this part in the center here, this is the bomb structure in the game. So wherever this wheel kind of anchor is connected to, is pointing to, is what the bombs are currently. So in this round, bombs are a suited run of 2. So maybe this player over here plays a 6, 7 run of 2 as a bomb. And they could have played bombs whenever, like this player over here could have played a bomb instead of flipping it face down, but they did what they did. Also, you can use wilds in bombs. So coming to this player here, again, we're going down, so down stronger, so they could do a 5-4 bomb. This player over here could do, if they wanted to, no, they actually can't, because they're out, so they're actually just going to pass. Next, maybe this player plays a 3-4 bomb, and coming to this player, they're like, oh no, I can't quite play because they don't have anything low, but you can use wilds and bombs, and maybe they play a 3-2 bomb. And then maybe it comes this person, and this person just passes. At the end of the trick, you're going to clean up everything, just toss it in the discard. You're going to flip this, because this can now change. You're not going to flip this, it stays at the current thing it is at, so ones are stronger, but this is also going to move. So in a trick where a bomb was used, this will move. If a bomb wasn't used, it actually stays the same. But since it was used, it's going to flip. So now this is a pair. So coming to this player over here, maybe they lead singles again. These players are all back in. And since we're going down, it's actually still down. So this player plays like a 9. They could, if they want to, be playing whatever else they wanted to play. So maybe this player starts off with a bomb actually and plays like 2 6s, getting spicy from the start. And maybe this player over here, because it's low, plays a bomb too. So that is currently the best thing until, again, maybe someone wants to flip it. What's interesting is this player doesn't have any cards anymore, so they can't flip it at all. So they are forced to pass in this situation. But maybe this player does that. They take this up, flip this to 15, and then they now play a bomb of 2 because it is going up. So a flow like this is going to continue, like at the end of this will move. We keep going around and around and around until a player sheds out. A hand is going to end when a player gets out of cards. So maybe it was this player's turn and they play their final card. And it actually doesn't count any face down cards, so just cards in hand. When that happens, players are going to stop playing immediately and count up the cards in their hands as points. And players are going to lose points depending on the cards they have in their hands. So this 13 is -2 points, -2 points, -2 points, and -1 each for those. But a player who sheds out gets 3 bonus points. So that was 1 round. You're going to play 3 rounds total for a short game and 4 rounds for a long game. And what's interesting is for the next round, you're actually going to collect all the cards and you're going to leave this where it's at. Obviously, if a bomb was played in that type, you will move it. But what's interesting is this will then be the start place for the next round where the bombs are at. So sometimes the flow is bombs are used a lot around here, and then kind of they slow down a little bit around here, and maybe stay here for like a round or 2, and then it actually gets back to that quick moving bomb structure. But that's how to play Onda. The deck in Hund is made up of 5 suits numbered 1 through 15, and depending on the player count, you're only going to use certain values. So at 3 players, you're going to use 1 to 6. At 4 players, it's 1 to 8, and at 5 players, it's 1 to 10. And these are used for a variant. Here we have a game of Hund mostly set up, so no matter the player count, you're going to shuffle the deck and deal the cards equally all out to each player. Each player is going to get a bone in their color and a disc that they'll put on the start part of the score track. You're going to get all the 5 colors, put them next to the board, and then you're going to shuffle the 1 through 5 of the number designator cards and flip it. Ooh, 5, nice. And then you're gonna set it to the side. Now that we're all set up, this is the game at Ebb. So if you've seen that older video, not much different besides the awesome production. But if you haven't, I'll teach you now. How this game works is it's a trick-taking game where you are paying close attention to that number that's drawn here, because that is going to dictate a lot of what this game is. How it works is players will be playing trick-taking, and it is must follow. So let's say it's the blue player here. The start player for the first round is actually the last player to play Hund, which is hilarious. I love it. And so it's must follow. So coming up to this player here, they actually have to play this 1. But coming to this player here, they can choose whether they play the 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's interesting about that choice is if they play the 5. So whenever a 5 is played in the game, and that's just because of this number up here, this could have been shuffled and been a 3 or whatever, then it would have been the 3s that were important. But as you can see here, it's the 5. Whenever a 5 is played in this game, it is going to immediately look at the suit it is and slot in that suit into the topmost section here. So as you can see, 5 just got made the trump suit. So all the gray, even though the gray didn't start as the trump suit, now all the gray cards are trump. And now the highest of the gray card will win. If there's no gray, then it would be highest of the lead suit. So now this player here, maybe they, being cheeky, are going to lead a 5, which now sets the next thing. So now all this suit, this blue-ish suit, are going to be worth points. It is still must follow, so players do have to play that. So now this player just got 3 points, essentially, which is great. Let's say that player led now the yellow, this player plays the 5. This has now set the next thing. This one right here, the bone, is you don't want to have the most or the fewest, you want to be in the middle, and if you are, you get 3 points. And how that scores, again, is the fewest and the most will get 0 points, and fewest does include taking none, interestingly enough. So now, again, we will keep playing. So this player now has 3 of those. I've showed that every trick, one of these has been designated, but as you can see in this trick, there are, just normal tricks where players don't have to kind of set that 5. So in this case, this player took this trick of 6, but they're a little nervous because they don't know if the green is going to be worth a negative point or for the final thing that we haven't talked about yet. So this person is a little bit on edge, and maybe they really don't want that to happen. So they are actually going to lead a different suit. So hopefully the blue doesn't get quite triggered early. But since this person up here doesn't have it, and they already think this player is already going to get some points, they are going to set the last one here. So when this gets set, all of these are now negative, and it also sets the final one. And this final one here, the flag, it just means the player who's collected the most of those cards is going to lead into the start of the next trick in the next round. And that's what this token also is here for. So that's pretty much it. Let's jump to the end where players are counting score. So all that matters for score are the positive suit points, and they're 1 each, the negative suit points, and they're -1 each, but also the yellow. So let's say these are just the hands people have collected. And as you can see here, funny enough, this right here, we have tied for most and tied for least, so no one would get the 3 points. But if it looked like this player over here got 2, this player got 0, and this player got 4. This player right here would get 3 more bonus points because they got the Hund suit in the middle. That is one round of Hund. You are to set up, you're going to move these all back, you're going to get a new one of these, you're going to shuffle and redeal. You're going to keep playing until one of 3 things happens. Either a player hits the star marker, so they move up and up and up until they hit the star marker, or a player hits the X marker, and then if that happens, the player who has the most points wins, or after an agreed upon number of rounds, they do say 5 at least. And that's how to play Hund. So that was Hund and Onda. And huge grain of salt before I go into final thoughts. I was sent both these copies of games from the publisher Board M Factory in Korea. And these are interesting because one of them I've covered before as Ebbs. And this has a new theme, great new art, and I liked it then, I like it now. I think it's a great addition of a game that has just a really, really fun hook where you don't really know what your suits are when you play. It's almost Maskmen-ish. I know that kind of sensation of looking at your hands and being like, what could this be, is really fascinating. And it's good that Trump isn't always good. It's defined near the start, which I think is very clever. But sometimes when I have a hand that I can make have a lot of Trump by playing that specific number, sometimes I don't want to, because having Trump near the end sometimes means you're just getting a lot of negative cards. And wanting to perfectly balance the amount of Hund cards you get makes it so you don't really want to take a ton of tricks. Yes, you want to take the positive cards, yes, you want to take some of the Hund, maybe, depending on where it's at on the min-max, but you don't want the negatives, and you definitely don't want all the Hund cards. So it's a really nice balance of winning tricks and losing tricks, hands being defined by the players kind of as you play. I think it's just a solid trick taker with a really, really fun hook, and this new aesthetic looks great as well. So Hund's a great time. I think it is very tactical. I think players sometimes struggle with a trick taker where you look at your hand and you have no clue what it could be, what it could mean, whatever that is. So I think if you want a more strategic trick taker, that sometimes is tough. There's still some strategy where sometimes you'll look at that magic number and know, hey, I'm going to be the one, usually, unless it gets pulled out. Because the suits are a little short, so sometimes it does get pulled out. That's maybe another aspect to be aware of. I don't find it as a critique, but maybe if you do feel like that, sometimes cards do get pulled out if you didn't plan it. So sometimes even though if you have that magic number and you're like, oh, I can choose what it is, sometimes it just gets pulled out with the must follow. So there's that to think about. But I think overall, it's a really, really cool concept, and it's done pretty well. I think the scoring where there's kind of a mercy at the top or the bottom is is fine. There's kind of an idea of I think this leans more towards traditional, where you play like a little bit longer than like maybe some of the modern trick takers that we've played, where definitely more of a limited number of hands. But again, I don't mind it. I think Ebbs was, and now Hund is, a great time. So that is Hund. And so on to the next game that we have not covered, Onda. Arthur, I think, has done a great job, and similar to, I'm realizing this now, similar to Hund, you kind of have like a hand is your oyster situation, where the cards can be good and bad depending on the situation. So the up and down is awesome. There's lovely flexibility on that. It's smart that it only can happen once in a trick, or whatever you call that in a climate shading game. I'm just gonna call it a trick. But I love that there's flexibility, but not too much randomness. Like if it could keep bouncing around, I think that's a little tough. Also, the wilds are really, really great addition. I love mitigating your hand, but also choosing what goes in front of you as those 2 cards. And then also, there's just such a lovely twist that, and it kind of reinforces the melds that you can play, that at any given point in the game, a meld will be a bomb in a trick. Super, super, super fun. I think it's just a very pleasing climbing shedding game. It has like a nice, clean hook, nothing too crazy, nothing too wacky, and it delivers on that premise pretty well. Yeah, and I like the art. I think Arthur might have done the art, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's also very soothing. I think it's indicative of kind of this nice, flowing game. And to that point about melds each being a bomb in a given trick, it's really nice that once they are used as a bomb, it doesn't move to the next one. That would be just like way too wild. But the fact that shorter 2-card either sets or runs are at the start means a lot of the bombs get played at the start, like the first hand of the game is kind of like every other trick is a new bomb. But once you get harder and harder bombs to do, like 3 and 4 cards, then it kind of gets more stagnant, and there's a really fun pace where the game is like this roller coaster where it starts really, really fast. It has like a bunch of these bombs, they're going crazy, and then you kind of slow up a little bit, and then you go tick, 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 up those like 4-card length bombs, and it gets a little bit harder to do and a little bit more challenging. And then after like maybe a whole hand where there's only 1 bomb type, or maybe 2 bomb types, then it gets back to the 2-card bombs, and it goes crazy again. I really like the whole flow of the game. So a lot of time trick taking, climbing, shedding, they don't have like hand-to-hand arcs, and while I would say this isn't like a super big impact on each hand-to-hand, I think it's really nice that over the course of the game it moves around, and it feels very different to when a round starts on a 2-card bomb, like a whole hand starts on a 2-card bomb, versus it starting on a 3 or a 4. There's really funny moments that I've had where if, like as a table, we're all on maybe the second or third hand, and the bomb is on a 4-card straight. And I'm looking at my hand, I'm like, I could definitely make a 4-card straight, but maybe I don't do that. And maybe I just try to prioritize having a bunch of 2s, like sets and 2-card runs, so that somebody will probably play a bomb in that first trick or 2, and then I'll have a great hand going forward. And everyone thought that, and then no one moved us past that 4-card bomb, and so we played a whole hand with no bombs. Super fascinating. In a game that's just like very bomb heavy. So really clever. I think the only criticisms I have is in those early 2-card bombs, the meld becomes less important. And so that's just nature of the beast when you have a game that has a lot of bombs and has bombing in a climbing shading game be a very core component, is sometimes the melds and the lead meld feels less impactful, but that's okay, because I think later on then it does. So I think it's just a game of ebbing and flowing. I just had people be like, well, you're just gonna bomb it anyway, and it's like, well, yeah, right now, yeah, but play into that. So I don't think it's a criticism, it's just like the game does feel different. The game starts where it's very bomb heavy, less meld heavy, like if you're thinking of traditional games like Haggis or something where, funny to call it traditional, like 2010 I think, but if you're thinking of those types of games where a bomb, or Teach You, where a bomb is a little more special, then that's not here. Bombs are very prevalent, but it's interesting how they become less prevalent, and that flow of the game is really clever. So that's Onda. I think it's a great time. Definitely cool flexibility on hand mitigation, bombs, meld choice, going up and down is super clever. I think, again, it is tactical, because both Hund and Onda are very tactical in that, yeah, you have a lot of options. A lot of things can change. People can change it on a dime. So you have to kind of be prepared for that. So I'd say maybe final thoughts are both these games. Great hooks that aren't too wild in a great package, but be aware that there's some like technical considerations. I personally like that. I like playing off that. But if you are someone who wants to sit with a hand, look at it, and have it be this like mastermind situation in either trick taking or climate shedding, I think you're not going to terribly find that here, at least at the start. I think the game's kind of, your hand kind of forms as you play once players lose options. But I do want to give that caveat. Anywho, that was Onda and Hund. Thanks so much for watching. Next week is our final national park. Try to guess what it is. Alrighty, thanks so much for watching. Bye.